The weapons scanner just classified Cadet Jackson's knife as a Class 7 extinction event artifact, and she made it in her garage last summer. According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, Weapons Master Xylar stared at the holographic readout, his combat-hardened mind refusing to process what his instruments were telling him. In 300 cycles of service, he'd inspected everything from molecular disruptors to plasma lances to one memorable crystalline cadet who was technically a sentient weapon himself. He knew the classification system inside and out. Class 7 extinction event artifacts didn't just appear in routine inspections. "Repeat scan," he ordered, his voice tight. The inspection hall had gone silent, 50 cadets watching as the senior Drath warrior cycled through verification protocols with increasingly frantic movements. This has to be a malfunction. It wasn't. The scanner's second pass came back identical. Forged from meteoric iron. Rank, legendary. Threat level, catastrophic. Recommend immediate containment. "Oh, come on," laughed a Vrinks cadet from the back of the line. "Jackson brought her lunch knife to weapons inspection. What's it gonna do? Threaten our sandwiches?" Sarah Jackson stood at the inspection station, looking thoroughly confused as she held out a simple, unadorned blade. The knife was maybe 20 centimeters long, plainly forged, with a worn leather-wrapped handle that had seen considerable use. It looked like something you'd use to gut fish on a camping trip, not end civilizations. "Did you seriously bring a butter knife to Military Academy?" another cadet called out, triggering scattered laughter. "It's not a butter knife," Sarah said defensively. "It's a utility knife. I made it myself, and it's really—" The emergency klaxons cut her off mid-sentence. Red light flooded the inspection hall as blast doors began slamming shut, separating cadets into containment sectors. The weapons scanner had triggered station-wide protocols designed for weapons so dangerous that their mere presence warranted evacuation procedures. "Legendary weapon detected," the station's AI announced calmly. "Initiating containment sequence. All non-essential personnel evacuate to designated safe zones." The laughter died instantly. Xylar's hand moved to his sidearm on pure instinct, years of combat training screaming that a legendary ranked weapon in an uncontrolled environment was a threat to everyone in a 10-kilometer radius. But he forced himself to think through the panic. The human cadet wasn't attacking. She was just standing there, holding her knife, looking as bewildered as everyone else. "Cadet Jackson," he said carefully, keeping his voice level despite his racing hearts. "I need you to very slowly place that weapon on the inspection platform and step back." "What? Why?" Sarah glanced at her knife like she'd never seen it before. "It's just a knife. I use it for camping and stuff. What's going on?" "Your camping knife is reading as a Class 7 extinction. Event artifact." Xylar pulled up the scanner data on the main display, and even he felt his conviction waver looking at the numbers. "That classification is reserved for weapons capable of planetary destruction, weapons that have ended entire civilizations. There are only 12 confirmed legendary ranked weapons in the known galaxy, and all 12 are locked in maximum security vaults under guard by—" "Wait, seriously?" Sarah looked at her knife again, then back at him. "This thing? I made it last summer. Took like 3 weekends. Found a meteorite in a field near my house and thought it'd be cool to forge something from it." The inspection hall had gone deadly quiet. Even the evacuation klaxons seemed muted by the weight of what she just said. "You made this," Xylar repeated slowly. "You forged a legendary class weapon as a hobby project?" "I mean, I wouldn't call it legendary." Sarah shrugged, completely oblivious to how the other cadets were now staring at her with something between awe and terror. "The edge could be sharper, and I'm not totally happy with the balance. My dad's a blacksmith. Well, he works in IT, but he makes knives on weekends, and he said my tang work needed improvement. This was kind of a practice piece." Practice piece. Xylar looked at his scanner again, desperately hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. Meteoric iron composition, 94.7% unknown alloy. Molecular structure, impossible. Edge stability, beyond measurable parameters. Destructive capability, catastrophic. Sir, his second-in-command said quietly, pulling up historical data on a separate console, there are only 12 confirmed legendary weapons in existence. The Blade of Suns, which vaporized a moon. The Reaper's Edge, which carved through a battle fleet like paper. The Void Cutter, which... I know what they are, Zealer snapped. He'd studied every legendary weapon as part of his training. They were ancient beyond measure, forged by master artificers using techniques lost to time, imbued with technology and power that modern science couldn't replicate. Each one had a history written in the ashes of civilizations. Each one was kept under lock and key because their destructive potential was simply too great to risk. And now there was a 13th, made by a human teenager in her parents' garage. The containment field isn't engaging properly, another instructor reported, panic creeping into her voice. The knife it's interfacing with our security systems, reading the protocols and adapting to them. Sarah perked up. Oh yeah, it does that sometimes. Gets kinda weird around electronics. I had to keep it away from my phone because it kept draining the battery. Figured it was just magnetic or something. Magnetic, Selar repeated faintly. The knife was actively learning their containment systems and neutralizing them, and the human thought it was magnetism. Emergency channels lit up across his command console. Station command. Demanding explanations. Security protocols escalating to maximum alert. The Academy's director requesting immediate visual confirmation of the threat. Zelar zoomed in on the knife with the inspection camera, and that's when he saw it. Really saw it. The blade's edge didn't just look sharp, it looked wrong, like it existed in more dimensions than his eyes could properly process. The metal itself seemed to drink in light, its surface showing patterns that shifted and moved when viewed from different angles. And along the blade's spine, barely visible, were what looked like crystalline formations that pulsed with their own internal luminescence. This wasn't just a weapon. This was craftsmanship on a level that shouldn't be possible with modern techniques, let alone primitive forge work. Cadet Jackson, he said, his training warring with his disbelief, where exactly did you find this meteorite? Like I said, in a field, near my house in Montana. Sarah was getting increasingly worried now, picking up on the genuine fear rippling through the room. Is this really that big a deal? Because I can just not bring it to class if it's a problem? Not bring it to... Zealer cut himself off before he said something unprofessional. Cadet, legendary weapons aren't just powerful. They're artifacts that shaped galactic history. Wars were fought over them. Species went extinct trying to possess them. The fact that one exists outside of vault containment is a crisis-level event. And she made it, whispered a Quellan cadet, her voice carrying in the silence. In a garage, from a rock. The implications crashed over Zylar like a physical wave. If a human could accidentally create a legendary class weapon with primitive tools and no formal training, what did that mean for humanity's potential? What did it mean that they had access to materials and instincts that could produce artifacts of such power? What did it mean that Sarah Jackson called this a practice piece? Command, Zealer said into his comm, his voice steadier than he felt. I need the Academy's metallurgy expert, now, and... He paused, weighing his words. Alert the Galactic Weapons Council. Tell them we have a situation. Sarah shifted uncomfortably, still holding her knife. So, do I pass inspection or... Cadet, I don't think you understand, Sylar said, pulling up a holographic display of the 12 known legendary weapons. Each one glowed with an ominous aura, accompanied by death tolls and civilization counts. Legendary rank doesn't mean really good weapon. It means universe-altering capability. These artifacts can crack planets, destabilize stars, carve through dimensional barriers. They're not tools, they're apocalypses waiting to happen. Sarah looked at her knife, then at the display, then back at her knife. But It's just a knife. I use it for camping. Cut rope with it. Cleaned some fish last month. It's really handy for opening those annoying plastic packages you... Know the ones with the... You used a legendary weapon to open packaging? The shout came from a Vrinks cadet who'd been laughing earlier. He wasn't laughing now. None of them were. They were all staring at the scanner readouts being broadcast across the hall's displays, watching the numbers that shouldn't exist. "Run it again," demanded a Tessian cadet, her chromatic skin flashing nervous purples. "This has to be wrong. Humans can't just make these." Selar ran a third verification scan, then a fourth, then a fifth, using different sensors, different frequencies, different analytical frameworks. Every single one came back identical. Rank, legendary threat. Assessment, extinction event. Origin, human craftsmanship. Age, approximately 1.2 standard cycles. 1 cycle old, Selar muttered, pulling up comparative data. The youngest confirmed legendary weapon before this was the Sundering Blade, forged 4,000 cycles ago after a century of work by the greatest artificers of the Kale Empire. "And I made mine in my garage," Sarah offered helpfully, "with a propane forge I bought online. Should I mention that?" "Please don't," Xylar said weakly. He focused the scanner on the knife's edge, magnifying the image until the molecular structure became visible. What he saw made his combat instincts scream warnings. His conscious mind couldn't fully process. The edge existed in multiple spatial dimensions simultaneously. "That's not possible," he whispered, zooming in further. The blade's cutting surface wasn't just sharp, it was fundamentally wrong. It existed partially outside normal space, giving it an effective thickness of 0 while maintaining structural integrity. This edge, it's not sharpened to a point, it's collapsed into dimensional overlap. "Is that bad?" Sarah asked. "Because honestly, I just kept hammering and grinding until it felt right. Didn't really measure anything." The metal composition analysis appeared on a secondary screen, and Xylar felt his understanding of metallurgy crumble. The alloy contained elements that shouldn't bond naturally, couldn't bond naturally according to every principle of atomic structure he'd been taught. Yet there they were, locked in stable configurations that radiated impossible energy signatures. "Korvax," he said into his comm, his voice tight, "I need you in Inspection Hall 3, now, and bring your personal threat assessment gear. In the middle of combat drills, this better be, we have a legendary weapon, outside containment, in a cadet's hands." The comm went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then, "Evacuating to your position, ETA 2 minutes. Those 2 minutes felt like hours. Xylar kept running scans, each one revealing new impossibilities. The knife's temperature stability ranged from absolute 0 to stellar core temperatures. It could theoretically be thrust into the heart of a sun and withdrawn undamaged. Its molecular bonds were self-repairing, regenerating damage faster than it could be inflicted. The metal had a quantum-locked structure that made it functionally indestructible. Korvax burst through the doors, a massive Drath warrior whose combat frame was built for battlefield supremacy. He took one look at the scanner readings and immediately began herding cadets toward the exits. "Everyone out! Now! This is not a drill!" "Wait, what?" Sarah stepped forward as cadets scrambled for the doors. "Should I not have brought it?" Because nobody said anything about knives being a problem. The equipment list said, "Personal weapons for inspection," and I thought. "The equipment list," Korvax said slowly, his 3 eyes focusing on her with laser intensity, "assumes cadets bring standard weapons, plasma pistols, vibroblades, sonic disruptors, not legendary artifacts that could vaporize this station." "But it's not going to vaporize anything," Sarah protested. "It's just a knife. A really good knife, I guess, but still just a knife." Korvax moved to the scanner controls, pulling up analysis protocols that Xylar didn't even know existed, classified military assessments reserved for doomsday scenarios. He ran them all. The knife's edge was monomolecular, self-repairing, functionally eternal. Cadet Jackson, Korvax said, his voice carrying the weight of someone delivering terrible news. How long did you say this took to make? Like 3 weekends? Maybe 4 if you count the handle work. Oh, and I had to redo the quench twice because I got the temperature wrong the first time. She laughed. Total beginner mistake. My dad says I need to be more patient with the heat treating. Selar and Korvax exchanged looks. Legendary weapons, Korvax said carefully, take centuries to forge. They require master artificers working with reality-altering technology in controlled quantum forges. They demand resources that would bankrupt entire planets. The Reaper's Edge took 300 cycles and the combined knowledge of 12 different species' greatest weaponsmiths. Huh. Sarah considered this. Well, I did watch a lot of YouTube tutorials. There's this really good channel about traditional blacksmithing techniques, very educational. YouTube, Zilar repeated faintly. Yeah. Turns out meteoric iron works differently than regular steel. You have to be really careful with the folding process, and the carbon content is super finicky. But once you figure out the rhythm, it's actually pretty forgiving material. Sarah smiled proudly. This was my 5th knife project. The first 4 were pretty rough, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. 5th project. Korvax's voice cracked across 2 octaves. You've made 4 other knives? Oh, don't worry. Those ones are way simpler. Regular steel. Though I did use some meteorite powder in the 3rd one for a pattern weld. Came out looking really cool, actually. Want to see pictures? Before anyone could answer, Korvax initiated a combat-grade materials test. He directed a cutting laser at the knife, the same laser used to slice through battle armor. The knife's edge caught the laser beam and redirected it, splitting the coherent light into a prismatic spray that painted the walls with rainbows. It just diffracted a cutting laser, Zilar said. That's not... blades don't do that. Wait, it did what? Sarah leaned in to look. Oh, cool! I noticed it got kinda shimmery in bright light. Thought that was just the way the meteorite pattern came out. Korvax ran another test, this time bringing up an energy shield, the kind used on capital ships to deflect incoming fire. He slowly moved the shield toward the knife. The blade slipped through it like the shield wasn't there. Impossible, Korvax breathed. That shield operates on quantum exclusion principles. Nothing physical should be able to penetrate it without... He stopped, staring at his instruments. The knife is phasing partially out of normal space. It's not cutting through the shield. It's existing in a dimensional state where the shield doesn't apply. Is that why it sometimes feels weird when I hold it? Sarah asked, like it's vibrating but not really. Both instructors turned to stare at her. Cadet Jackson, Zylar said quietly, you have created an extinction-level weapon in your spare time using primitive tools, YouTube tutorials, and a rock you found in a field. When you put it like that, it sounds way more dramatic than it was. It should be dramatic, Korvax roared. This changes everything we know about human capabilities. If you can forge legendary weapons accidentally, what else can your species create? Sarah shrugged. I mean, my dad makes really good kitchen knives. Does that count? The emergency transport materialized 30 minutes later, and Vexia stepped through looking thoroughly annoyed at being pulled from her research. The ancient metallurgy expert had spent the last 800 cycles studying every known legendary weapon, documenting their creation methods, analyzing their impossible properties, and writing definitive texts on why such artifacts could never be replicated with modern techniques. She took one look at the scanner readings, and her irritation vanished, replaced by something close to religious awe. No, she whispered, her crystalline fingers trembling as she reached toward the data streams. No, this can't. This shouldn't. Her voice failed completely as she examined the molecular composition analysis. That's what we said, Zilar muttered. Vexia moved closer to Sarah's knife, which still sat on the inspection platform, innocently reflecting the emergency lighting. She pulled out scanning equipment that looked older than some civilizations, devices built specifically for analyzing legendary artifacts. The readings that came back made her stagger. Pre-formation matter, she breathed. This blade contains pre-formation matter, matter from before the current universe's physical laws solidified, matter that predates modern physics itself. Sarah said, it's from a meteorite? Just regular space rock stuff. Regular? Vexia spun to face her, and for the first time since arriving, seemed to actually see the human cadet. Child, do you have any concept of what you're holding? Preformation matter is theoretical, it's mythological, it's the substance the universe was made from before entropy and causality locked reality into its current state. I found it in a field in Kansas, Sarah said defensively. It looked neat, all dark and pitted with these weird crystalline inclusions. Figured it'd make a cool knife. The silence that followed was profound. Kansas, Vexia repeated slowly. You found universe primordial matter in Kansas, in a field. I mean, meteorites hit Earth all the time. Sarah shrugged. We get like 50,000 tons of space debris every year. Most of it burns up, but some makes it to the ground. This one was just sitting there after a storm. My dog actually found it first. Korvax pulled up astronomical data on Earth's location, orbital mechanics, trajectory through the galaxy. His combat-hardened face went through several colors as he processed what he was seeing. Earth's orbital path, he said quietly, passes through 12 different debris fields from the early universe. Your planet is being constantly bombarded by primordial matter. You're living in a shooting gallery of creation-level materials. Huh? Sarah said. That explains the really good meteor showers, I guess. Vexia had moved to a specialized console, pulling up every piece of data she had on legendary weapon creation. The Blade of Suns required a quantum forge operating at 47 million degrees. The Reaper's Edge needed reality stabilization fields to keep the metal from achieving sentience during the folding process. The Void Cutter demanded 3 different master artificers working in synchronized temporal loops to... She stopped, turning back to Sarah. How did you forge this? Oh, pretty standard process, actually. Sarah brightened, happy to talk about something she understood. Heat it up in the forge until it's orange hot, that's around 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit, then hammer it flat. Repeat that like 100 times for the folding. Then you shape it, grind the edge, heat treat it properly. That's super important. You have to get the temperature just right, and then quench it in oil. Polish it up, add the handle, and done. The metallurgy expert's crystalline form had gone completely still. You worked preformation matter with a propane forge. Well, yeah, that's what I had. Preformation matter, which requires quantum-level precision to manipulate, which exists partially outside normal space-time, which responds to conscious thought and can rewrite local physics. Vexia's voice was climbing. You worked it with primitive tools. They're not that primitive, Sarah protested. My forge can hit 2,400 degrees easy, and my hammers are really well balanced. My dad helped me set up the whole workspace. He's been making knives for like 20 years. Your father, Zilar said slowly, makes knives. Yeah, he's really good, has a whole collection. Made most of the kitchen knives at home too. Oh, and hunting knives, camping knives, a few swords for fun. He's got like 50 blades in his workshop. Some are gifts, some he sells at craft fairs, but most he just makes because he enjoys it. Vexia made a sound like a star dying. 50. Blades. Potentially 50 legendary-class weapons just sitting in a workshop on Earth. I mean, most of them are regular steel, Sarah said. Only a few are meteorite iron like this one. Though Dad did find a really big meteorite last year in Colorado, he's been saving it for a special project. Korvax was pulling up more data, his movements increasingly frantic. I'm accessing Earth's geological surveys, their meteorite impact records, their... He stopped, his 3 eyes widening. They have museums full of meteorite samples, available for study, some available for purchase. Sure, Sarah confirmed. You can buy meteorite pieces online if you want. Collectors love them. Prices vary depending on type and size, but they're not crazy expensive. The one I used cost like $200. 200, Vexia whispered. You bought pre-formation matter for 200 currency units and made it into a camping knife. I got a good deal. It was like 8 pounds, way more than I needed, so I still have some left over for future projects. The ancient scholar pulled up a detailed scan of the knife's construction, examining every fold, every hammer mark, every crystalline structure in the blade. What she found made her sink into a nearby chair, her usual scholarly composure completely abandoned. Each hammer strike, she said faintly, is perfect. The spacing, the pressure, the angle, all operating at quantum precision levels, but there's no technology involved, no computer guidance, no reality stabilization. This is pure craftsmanship, instinctual work. Well, I've been practicing, Sarah said modestly. First couple knives I made weren't great, but you get a feel for it after a while. The metal kind of tells you what it wants. The metal tells you what it wants. Vexia looked up at the human cadet. You can hear the pre-formation matter. You can sense its quantum states. You're working with it instinctively, responding to feedback that most species can't even detect without specialized equipment. I guess, Sarah looked uncertain. It's just, you know how when you're working with your hands, you can tell when something's right? Like that, but with metal. My dad calls it listening to the steel. Your species, Vexia said slowly, realization dawning across her crystalline features, evolved on a planet constantly bombarded by creation-level materials. You've been exposed to pre-formation matter for your entire evolutionary history. You've developed an intuitive understanding of how to work with it. Not technological, not learned, instinctual. Silar was scanning Earth's historical records now, pulling up images of ancient human craftsmanship. Damascus steel swords with impossible patterns, Japanese katanas that could cut through modern materials, medieval armor that showed anomalous durability, European sword blades with crystalline structures that shouldn't exist. They've been doing this for millennia, he said quietly. Human smiths throughout history, creating works that experts called impossible or unexplainable. Not because they had advanced technology, but because they were intuitively working with primordial matter that fell from the sky. Every meteoric blade they ever forged, Korvax added, pulling up more historical data, was potentially a legendary weapon. They just didn't have our classification system to recognize it. Sarah checked her data pad. So, this is all really interesting, but I'm like super late for my next class now. Should I just leave the knife here or leave it? Vexia stood so fast her chair toppled. You cannot simply leave a legendary artifact. It requires specialized containment, constant monitoring, security protocols. But I need it for field exercises next week, Sarah said. We're doing wilderness survival training, and this is my good knife. The three authority figures stared at her. Your good knife, Xylar repeated. Yeah. I've got other knives, but this one's my favorite. It holds an edge forever, never needs sharpening, and the balance is perfect. Plus, it looks cool. Sarah smiled. Dad says the next one I make should be bigger. Maybe a machete or something. That'd be useful for the advanced survival courses. Vexia looked like she might achieve sentience just to faint properly. You're planning to make more. Well, yeah, it's fun and practical. Good skill to have. The complete collapse of galactic metallurgical paradigms was happening in real time, and the human responsible was worried about being late to class. Vexia's hands moved across her console with desperate purpose, accessing archives so old they predated most current civilizations. These weren't just classified, they were forbidden, locked away because the knowledge they contained challenged fundamental assumptions about the universe. There are legends, she said, her voice distant as ancient text scrolled across her screens. From the first expansion. Stories dismissed as myth by modern scholars. They spoke of species called the forgeborn, beings with instinctive mastery over creation itself. The holographic display materialized above them, showing text in languages that had to be translated 3 times before modern syntax could parse them. The forgeborn do not build with technology. They shape with touch, with intuition, with understanding that flows through their hands rather than their minds. They hear the song of fundamental matter and answer with hammer and flame. What they create is not constructed, it is born. I thought those were fairy tales, Korvax said quietly. Stories to explain artifacts we couldn't understand. So did I. Vexia pulled up more records, archaeological findings, unexplained artifacts, weapons and tools that defied analysis. But look at the pattern. Every discovery of impossible craftsmanship coincides with species that evolved in high bombardment zones, species exposed to primordial matter during their development. She overlaid Earth's position in the galaxy with historical bombardment data. The correlation was undeniable. Humans evolved in a shooting gallery, Seedlar breathed, surrounded by pre-formation matter, exposed to creation-level materials for millions of years. They didn't just learn to work with it, they evolved a tactile understanding of fundamental matter itself. That's why human craftsmanship throughout history produced unexplainable works, Vexia continued, pulling up images that Sarah recognized from history classes. Damascus steel, with patterns that modern metallurgy can't replicate. Japanese katanas that somehow bonded different metal types in ways that shouldn't be stable. Viking swords with crystalline structures that violate our understanding of metalworking. All made with meteorite iron, Sarah said, suddenly understanding. I read about that. Ancient smiths thought meteoric iron was special, a gift from the gods. They prized it for weapons and tools. Because it was special. Vexia zoomed in on analysis of ancient earth blades. Every piece of primitive human metalwork that survived the ages and confounded experts, they all contain trace amounts of pre-formation matter. Your ancestors were working with creation materials and didn't even know it. They just knew it felt right. Sarah looked at her knife with new eyes. So when I said the metal tells me what it wants. You were sensing quantum states, Vexia confirmed, feeling the pre-formation matter's existence across multiple dimensions, responding to feedback that our most sophisticated instruments can barely detect. You weren't building a weapon, Cadet Jackson. You were creating art with cosmic materials, and your species has been doing it for thousands of years. You didn't build a weapon, Seedlar said slowly, understanding dawning. You made art that happens to be lethal. I mean, yeah, Sarah looked confused by their amazement. That's kind of the point of a good knife. It should be functional and beautiful, form and function together. My dad always says if you're going to spend hours making something, make it worth looking at. Vexia initiated a new series of tests, not of the knife's destructive capability, but of its relationship with its maker. She had Sarah hold the blade while monitoring the quantum resonance between them. The readings made her gasp. It's bonded to you, she whispered. The knife is responding to your intent, adapting to your needs. Watch. Think about needing a sharper edge. Sarah focused, and the scanners showed the blade's molecular structure shifting, the edge collapsing further into dimensional overlap. Now think about needing it duller, safer. The edge broadened microscopically, becoming less immediately lethal while maintaining structural integrity. It's reading your mind? Sarah asked, slightly alarmed. Not mind reading, resonating. Vexia's excitement was building. The process of creating it, every hammer strike, every heating and cooling cycle, every moment you spent shaping it, created a quantum entanglement between you and the pre-formation matter. The knife isn't just a tool, it's an extension of your will, a symbiotic relationship between maker and made. Korvax ran combat simulations, modeling what would happen if someone else tried to use Sarah's knife against her. The results were definitive. The blade would refuse to function, its legendary properties becoming dormant in unauthorized hands. "This changes everything," he said. "This isn't a weapon that could fall into enemy hands. It's not a threat that could be stolen or misused. He struggled for words. "It's a part of her." "All legendary weapons are maker-bonded," Vexia explained, pulling up historical records. "The Blade of Suns only answered to Emperor Caelix. The Reaper's Edge died with its creator. We thought the bonding process required technological interfaces, quantum lock protocols, genetic imprinting, but humans do it naturally, through the act of creation itself." "This is beyond our understanding," she continued, addressing Sarah directly now. "What you've accomplished isn't just metallurgy or craftsmanship, it's creation-level artisanship. You've taken primordial matter, the building blocks of reality, and shaped them with nothing but skill, intuition, and time. You've created something that responds to your will because it was born from your will." Sarah processed this, looking at her knife, her art, her creation, with a mixture of pride and bewilderment. "So, it's not dangerous?" "Oh, it's incredibly dangerous," Zilar said, "but only if you want it to be. The original Crisis, a legendary weapon loose in the Academy, that was based on the assumption that such weapons are autonomous threats. But yours isn't. It's an extension of you. It's only as dangerous as you choose to make it." Vexia was already drafting new classification protocols, her fingers flying across multiple consoles simultaneously. "Human-crafted items require a completely different system. We can't classify them by destructive potential alone. We need to account for the maker bond, the intentional control, the fact that they're artistic expressions rather than pure weapons." "New designation," Zilar announced, updating Sarah's file in real time. "Human legendary craft, maker bonded. Cleared for personal carry with notation. Weapon responds exclusively to creators. Intent. Threat level variable based on user determination. Standard containment protocols do not apply." "So I can keep it?" Sarah asked hopefully. "You can keep it," Vexia confirmed. "In fact, I don't think we could separate you from it if we tried. The quantum bonding is too complete. That knife is as much a part of you as your hand." Sarah grinned, relieved. "Awesome. Because honestly, I was worried I'd have to start over with a new one, and that meteorite piece took forever to forge down to workable size." "Please don't make a new one," Korvac said weakly. "My cardiovascular system can't handle another legendary weapon discovery this cycle." "Oh, I wasn't planning to make another knife right away." Sarah checked her datapad again, though Dad did ask if I wanted to collaborate on a sword project for his next craft fair. Could be fun. The three authority figures exchanged glances that mixed terror with resignation. "A sword," Vexia repeated. "Probably just a short sword. Nothing fancy. Well, maybe with some pattern welding if we have time. Dad's really good at that." Sarah smiled innocently. "Why? Is that a problem?" Slar pulled up Earth's location again, calculated the trajectory of primordial matter bombardment, and estimated how many other humans might be working with meteorite iron at this very moment. "No," he lied. "No problem at all." But he made a mental note to update the weapons inspection protocols immediately, and to warn the Galactic Weapons Council that humanity's craft fairs might be more significant than anyone had realized. The emergency council session lasted through the night. By morning, the Galactic Academy had implemented a completely new classification system, hastily drafted but absolutely necessary. Effective immediately, Zilar announced to the assembled weapons inspection staff, all human-crafted items receive special exemption from standard threat assessment protocols. We cannot classify human-made objects by our usual metrics because humans operate on fundamentally different creative principles. The new designation appeared on every screen in the Academy. Artisan Legendary, Acceptable Risk, Human-Bonded Craft. Sarah's knife was officially registered under her name with a note that made Zilar's hand shake slightly as he typed it. Maker Bonded Artifact. threat level contingent on creator's intent, functional art created through instinctive pre-formation matter manipulation. Do not attempt standard containment. I'm developing a new training module, he continued, pulling up preliminary course materials he'd been working on since 300 hours. Intuitive material craftsmanship, understanding human creative process. It'll be required for all weapons inspectors and security personnel. Korvax was already updating combat training protocols. We need to account for the fact that human cadets may carry maker-bonded legendary artifacts disguised as ordinary equipment. New policy: trust human assessment of their own gear. In the metallurgy lab, Vexia was composing what might be the most important research proposal of her 800-cycle career. "I'm requesting permission to visit Earth," she said, her crystalline form practically vibrating with excitement. "I need to study human blacksmiths in their natural environment, document their techniques, understand how they've been working with creation materials for millennia without recognizing what they were doing. This could rewrite everything we know about ancient metallurgy." "Approved," came the immediate response from the council, also requesting you investigate their craft fairs. Intelligence suggests these may be significant cultural events where multiple legendary artifacts are casually displayed and sold. Sarah had finally been cleared to leave, nearly 4 hours late for every class on her schedule. As she clipped her knife back onto her belt, Korvax approached with uncharacteristic hesitancy. "Cadet Jackson," the massive warrior said, could you possibly make a knife for me?" Sarah blinked. Sure, I guess. Might take a few weekends, though. I've got midterms coming up, and Dad's teaching me this new folding technique he wants me to practice. But yeah, I could probably fit in a commission. What kind of blade were you thinking?" The casual offer to create another legendary weapon, discussed with the same energy as agreeing to help someone move furniture, made Zilar grab his desk for support. "Just something functional," Korvax said, clearly trying to match her casual tone, "for field work." "Cool. I'll sketch some designs and show you next week. Do you like straight edges or curved?" "Because I've been wanting to try a recurve pattern." News of the incident spread through galactic channels at faster-than-light speed. By midday, the Galactic Council was in emergency session, discussing implications that ranged from the practical to the philosophical. "Humanity crafts instinctively with cosmic materials," one council member summarized, reading from Vexia's preliminary report. "They've been doing it for thousands of years. Every human artisan working with meteorite iron is potentially creating universe-significant artifacts without knowing it." "How many human blacksmiths are there?" another asked. The answer, when it came back from Earth's census data, made several council members need to sit down. Approximately 47,000 active practitioners, with another 300,000 hobbyists. "Thousands," someone whispered. "Potentially thousands of legendary weapons just existing in workshops and garages across one planet." "Update recruitment protocols," the council chair ordered. "Human craftsmanship operates on different principles than we understood. Note for all Academy staff, do not mock human-made items. Ever." Sarah made it to combat training just as the session was ending. The other cadets, the same ones who'd laughed at her butter knife that morning, parted like water as she walked past, staring at the simple blade on her belt with newfound respect mixed with healthy fear. "Nice knife, Jackson," one Vrinks cadet offered weakly. "Thanks," Sarah said brightly. "Made it myself. At least now people won't bug me about my primitive human weapon." Several cadets looked ashamed. The Vrinks cadet who'd made the butter knife joke earlier approached hesitantly. "Hey, about what I said earlier." "Don't worry about it," Sarah laughed. "I mean, it does kind of look like a butter knife if you don't know what you're looking at. Dad says presentation is half the work, and I definitely focused more on function than flash with this one." In the metallurgy lab, Vexia had convinced Sarah to leave a single cell sample from her knife for study. The ancient scholar sat before it now, running scans that revealed layer upon layer of quantum information encoded in the pre-formation matter. It's teaching me, she whispered to herself, watching data streams that showed her glimpses of pre-universe physics, of how matter worked before entropy made everything complicated. The blade remembers creation itself, and it's sharing that memory. The new Academy handbook was updated within hours. Note on human craftsmanship. Human cadets may possess maker-bonded legendary artifacts created through instinctive manipulation of primordial materials. These items should not be confiscated, mocked, or analyzed without explicit permission. Humans have been working with creation-level matter for millennia and consider it normal craftsmanship. Respect this accordingly. Sarah sat in her dormitory that evening, her legendary blade across her lap, running a simple whetstone along its edge, not because it needed sharpening, but because the ritual felt right. The knife hummed contentedly under her touch, its quantum-locked structure appreciating the attention. Her datapad chimed. A message from Zilar. Your knife will be studied for millennia. Historians will write dissertations about it. It may become the most famous weapon in galactic history. Sarah typed back. Cool, but can I still use it for camping trips? The response came after a long pause. Yes. Yes, you can still use it for camping trips. She smiled, set her datapad aside, and continued the meditative process of caring for her blade. Through the dorm window, stars wheeled overhead, the same stars that had been dropping primordial matter onto Earth for millions of years, seeding her planet with creation itself. Down in the metallurgy lab, Vexia was composing excited messages to colleagues, describing the discovery that would reshape galactic understanding of craftsmanship, of creation, of what it meant to make something with your own hands. In the council chambers, politicians and generals discussed the implications of a species that could casually forge legendary weapons in their garages. And in her room, Sarah Jackson, former metalworker, current military cadet, accidental creator of universe-significant artifacts, finished sharpening her knife, checked tomorrow's class schedule, and made a mental note to call Dad about that sword project. Just another day at the academy, just another project from the garage, just humanity, being human, and accidentally rewriting the rules without even noticing. The knife glowed softly in the evening light, content in the hands of its maker, dreaming of the next camping trip where it would cut rope and clean fish and open annoying packaging. Because that's what good knives did. Even legendary ones.